Hey guys, here for another episode of Casket Conversations. Here again with my buddy Steven. Say hi.
Hello, I have returned. So sorry for being away for so long, but coming back.
Yeah, sorry it's been a while since the last episode. But yeah, we're looking forward to this one because it's going to be an all Star Wars universe podcast. We're going to be talking about just our overall thoughts about the universe, our favorite characters, all that kind of good stuff, the movies. But we're also going to be throwing in some thoughts on the Han Solo movie and the news that's coming about that and Rogue One. And yeah, it should be a pretty fun thing. We might talk about the TV shows a little bit. Who knows? But it's going to be all Star Wars. So if you don't like Star Wars, you can leave because
to the next one.
yeah, just go listen to a different one. Go do something else because you're gonna be pretty bored with this one. All right, man. So so what are your Well, I guess let's first talk about this because I think this might be interesting. What was your first introduction to Star Wars? Do you remember that?
I watched the original trilogy. I think it was episode 4 when I was pretty young.
Yeah.
It was kind of an interesting introduction into it, but yeah.
Yeah.
That was where I got started, was the original trilogy, because when I got started, there was no prequel trilogy yet.
No.
The established universe was still kind of forming.
Yeah.
I mean, there have been some books and stuff, but nothing as solidified as it is now.
Oh yeah, for sure. Definitely. Yeah, for me, when I go back to being introduced, I honestly think that Return of the Jedi was the first Star Wars movie that I really remember watching. At least that's my first memories of it. You'll have to talk to my parents to ask if they actually started me at the beginning or not. But yeah, my first memory with Star Wars is Return of the Jedi. My cousins actually, they had it on VHS tape. For those of you that remember those good old days. And they copied it over onto a blank cassette, and that was my Star Wars for the longest time. And so when a lot of people talk about Return of the Jedi with me, and I'm kind of meh about it, well, that's kind of why, because for me, Star Wars was that movie all the time. But then, as I grew older, I definitely, I remember... Do you remember back when we were kids when ABC did their Star Wars thing where they started playing the movies on TV? That was really the first time I remember seeing A New Hope, was when they played it on TV. And
yeah, that's where I got started. I think I was around there. I think I may have gotten started with Return of the Jedi as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah. So yeah, Star Wars has definitely been in the fam for quite a long time. My dad used to tell me stories all the time that when he was a kid, he would go and just sit in the movie theater and, watch it over and over and over again, because you could do that back then, or else you can't do that now. Now they kick you out. But
No.
So yeah.
I of course went to see all the special editions in the theater too.
Of
when
course.
they re-released those, that was pretty neat.
Yeah. The only one I saw when they re-brought it out was, well, actually, the only Star Wars, other than its, like, normal releases, the only, like, older movies that I saw in the theater was A New Hope. I didn't get to see The Phantom Menace in the theater, saw Attack of the Clones in the theater, saw Revenge of the Sith, and then I went back and saw Phantom in 3D when they tried to do that whole thing. That was...
I didn't see Phantom in 3D.
I didn't need to be in 3D.
I did see them all in the theater, though.
That's cool. Yep. So I guess with that, so you kind of know that we do have background in Star Wars. We promise.
A little
bit. So let's talk about this Han Solo movie. What's the deal with that? What are your thoughts on the whole Aaron Reich getting the cast, and what are your thoughts on it? Should they make it? Are you excited for it? All that kind of stuff.
It depends on what direction they go with it. I'm kind of looking forward to. I have a lot of questions about Han Solo's backstory and such. I don't always necessarily want there to be an origin story or whatever, but I do. I'll admit I have curiosities about it. I mean, like, how did he hook up with Chewbacca and all that jazz? What was he like before the Star Wars movies where we meet him?
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at too. Before they changed the whole canon and the expanded universe and everything, I think I watched a video somewhere where isn't their past was their past didn't Chewbacca get captured by the Empire and Han Solo was like a stormtrooper or something, or his brother was a stormtrooper and then he like saved Chewie or something. I don't know, it's something like that.
I don't know what they did as far as that goes. I know
Yeah.
I know the basic was that Han saved Chewie's life, and Chewie pretty much swore himself to Han's side after that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious on that too. It's like, I've been watching a lot of different YouTubers and YouTuber movie people like talk about this, and I kind of side with a lot of them when it's like, if you were to ask me back when I was a kid, or even just a few years ago, do we need a Han Solo movie? Not really. I could go the rest of my life without having a Han Solo movie. But since it's happening and there's nothing we can really do about it, then yeah, I do have my concerns, and I'm definitely excited for it. I like Aaron Reich. I haven't really seen anything that he's in, but he definitely looks the part. And going from the same people that I like to watch myself, they have seen stuff, and I can kind of gauge what my thoughts would be, in accordance. So I'll give the kid a chance. I'll give him, the ability to see what, he can do. I think something that would make it mean a lot more to me is if maybe at Celebration in London this year, or at another convention or something, if like Harrison Ford would like kind of give his like passing of the torch to it and kind of just solidify that. I know that I would feel better about it if that happened. But overall, yeah, do we need a Han Solo movie? No, not really, but I'm excited for it,
As long as he shoots first.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's what matters. Well, actually, we want the kid to be able to act.
Yeah. Definitely.
But I think, when George Lucas was running the movies, I'm going to be giving him a hard time about this, but I need to say it. Movies were rather two-dimensional.
Yeah.
And since they handed movies over to Disney, they've become three-dimensional. They've added layers to it.
Yeah.
And if they continue in that direction, I will have a lot more faith in the franchise. And I think they are. They have the TV series Star Wars Rebels, which is very heavily about character development and story.
Very much.
And stuff like that, so that helps.
Oh, well, even the Clone Wars, the Clone Wars was really, really, really good. I know there's a lot of people that don't really care about watching the Clone Wars because it's in that prequel era, but I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, now look,
if you're, in my
well,
opinion,
for me, more than tolerable, because like, look, you take something that is complete, just not good. Well, I shouldn't say that. There are parts of the prequels that are good, but for the sake of my point, it's like taking something that is like you can barely handle, but you throw in what Filoni has done with Clone Wars. And oh my gosh, it just makes it so much more palatable because you actually care about Obi-Wan and Anakin and Ahsoka and all of these other characters that, are kind of thrown into the mix. And
they got Plo Koon to talk. That's what matters to
me. Yes, exactly. But no, I totally agree. I think Disney is doing a great thing. One issue that a lot of people kind of had with The Force Awakens in succession to the other 6 movies is that there wasn't any politics in it, but I don't really think we needed politics in it. Yeah, I will agree.
Actually, a little bit. It was very subtle.
it was
It's
very
very
subtle.
subtle if you're not looking for it.
Yeah. But I don't think there needed to be, because there wasn't that much politics in A New Hope either, and at least not compared to The Empire Strikes Back or Return of the Jedi, and especially the prequels. Um, because look, I think Disney's fear was, because of how the fans have voiced themselves, and they kind of paint the picture that the reason we don't like the prequels is because of the politics, when that's not exactly true. Yes, the politics were a little bit overbearing, but the politics weren't a problem. You can do politics in Star Wars and it still really, really work. But it was just, there was a lot of other issues, which we'll get into a little bit later. But I thought the way they
Uh,
brought Star Wars back to
I'll start
life.
coughing and express my annoyance
Yeah,
at those certain elements.
yeah.
Uh,
But I thought they brought Star Wars back with great, you know, in great style. I thought it was brilliant. I mean, I went out the day it came out on Blu-ray and bought it, and I don't regret forking out the money for it, because it's it's just such a really, really good movie, and the whole cast is brilliant. Um, so there was breaking news this week. Um, don't know exactly what was going on, but I guess well, two things kind of happened about sort of the same issue, and that's the topic of Obi-Wan Kenobi, because Filoni, or part number one, Filoni has come out and said that he would love it if Ewan McGregor would come in and do the voice of Obi-Wan Kenobi for season 3 of Rebels, taking the place of James Arnold Taylor. And two, um, Ewan McGregor has been seen coming out of, you know, the lots of like Lucasfilm or and all of that. So there's been a lot of speculation of whether he's been kind of trying to solidify, the Obi-Wan movie or movies. For those of you that might think that it's a trilogy, I'd perfectly honestly just be okay with one, but whatever. But yeah, so there's been a lot of speculation. What are your kind of thoughts on all of that?
I'm always a Ewan McGregor fan. I kind of felt he got shafted in the prequels because he's a really good actor. He was kind of carrying those movies on his shoulders,
Right.
Especially the later two.
Yeah.
He was the lead.
Yeah.
But the fact is that it would be nice to actually get him to be able to do Obi-Wan justice. If they have good scripts and such, if they decide to cast him, it would be neat for him to voice in Rebels. But I'm not opposed to James Arnold Taylor, because James Arnold Taylor does the character pretty well. But it would be kind of neat to have Ewan do it. But
Here's my thoughts on the.
Neither here nor there.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Here's my thoughts on the thing is because, like, look, James Arnold Taylor has been voicing Obi-Wan since the very beginning of the Clone Wars. I mean, since the movie. So it's like it's one of those things where I don't want James Arnold Taylor to get shafted. It's like absolutely. I think pretty much anyone, James Arnold Taylor aside.
In one episode of Rebels anyway.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where, if we knew that we were gonna have Obi-Wan for like the majority of season 3 of Rebels, I think it would be more fair to have James Arnold Taylor there, since he's done all of the legwork for Obi-Wan and pretty much almost everything. I mean, the only thing we have Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan in is the prequels, for the most part. I mean, I think he might have done some things here and there, but I mean, for the most part, it's James. So it's like, yeah, I mean, I understand the sentiment of, but here's the quick little caveat for me is if Obi-Wan is only going to be in it for like 2 or 3 episodes, or like, because like, look, here's another topic that kind of goes into the next topic that we'll be talking about. But here's the deal. Season 3 of Rebels is getting dangerously close to the events of Rogue One and A New Hope. And so there is going to be a place where things kind of start meshing together. So here's my thing: if they ever decided to do like a Rebels movie or like big thing like that, like then yeah, get Ewan McGregor, because at that point it's so close to the movies that yeah, it would just make sense to get Ewan to come in. But if we've got, because I don't know what their plan is, and so if they've got, one or two more seasons of Rebels before it starts getting into that territory, then yeah, let's get James back. But so I'm kind of on the fence. It's like as long as there's nobody that's getting their feelings hurt, I'm good. As long as there's like it's fair and it works and all that. As far as the movie go, like I really want, like I actually want an Obi-Wan movie or movies more than I do a Han Solo movie. Just because there's so much time that takes place in between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. What the hell was Obi-Wan doing all of those years? Was he literally just on Tatooine, just watching Luke the whole time? Did he have a love interest at all during that time? Did he actually get to communicate with Qui-Gon? Because, Yoda tells him at the end of Revenge that he has a way that he can speak with his former master. So, and we kind of get the idea that he did learn at least the trick because he does it to Luke in the original trilogy. So, it's one of those things where there's a lot of different things that they could do. So I would love to have Ewan McGregor, and because Ewan McGregor as literally at the perfect age to take on Obi-Wan again, and it would fit concisely with what's going on, in the saga films. So that's kind of my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it would be great. It would be great to have him back. He gets a chance to actually do the character justice.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't his fault. It was the writing.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't the majority of the cast's fault. I mean, caveating Hayden Christensen and Natalie Portman,
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm like, those two, yeah, it's their fault.
Yeah. Well, but we'll get into that a little bit later. So next, let's listen, guys, we're skipping over this for now because you don't understand our feelings on the prequels. So it's gonna take a lot. So yeah, it's gonna take a lot of time to get our feelings out. So let's talk about Rogue One. What are your thoughts on
Rogue
that?
One, I'm so excited.
Yeah, definitely.
Because the events of Rogue One are mentioned in New Hope, but we don't know how it happened. What were the exact circumstances?
Yeah.
How much time did it actually take for them to get their hands on the plans for the Death Star?
Yeah.
How much did they know before they went in?
Yeah.
And it's kind of cool that they're having a young Mon Mothma, which we actually see the character in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
But we don't know much about her. So
and man, that actress they got.
Background.
And man, whoever that actress is that they got looks so much like her. It's scary.
Good old CGI casting actresses and really good makeup. I'm excited for it too.
Again, watching all the YouTubers that I watch, I've heard a lot of speculation and ideas. And one thing I really like the idea of is, because see, the biggest question for me is not what necessarily the plot of Rogue One's gonna be, because you can kind of guess what that's gonna be, and not like the fighting or the duels or anything like that, but it's gonna be what is the thing that they're gonna leave us on at the end of the movie. And how awesome would it be if like one or two things, because I've heard two ideas and I really like them both. One, if like the last shot of it is like something with Leia, where you see her like either like getting the transmission, or like you just see like these doors open up and you see like her, like Leia walking through it, like from the back, like you see the back of her like walking through, and that's like the last thing you see. Or like something with Darth Vader, like him finding out that it's been stolen, and then you see them like coming up on the rebel ship, which is like right at the beginning of A New Hope. And so I have heard some other things that say that it takes like the movie will end like a couple weeks or a couple months before the events of A New Hope, which that's still pretty close. So that doesn't really bother me if that ends up being true. but the fan in me, I want it to lead in right into it. Like I don't want, because that was the one thing that I loved the most about Revenge of the Sith was it leads. You can clearly see the lead in from Revenge of the Sith to the next film. So I want that same feeling, but even more with this because they can do it and they can do it well.
Oh, absolutely, because they already have the established timeline and such.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the funny thing. You know, there's an old joke. Why did episodes 4, 5, and 6 come before 1, 2, and 3? Because in charge of planning Yoda was.
That's funny.
But it actually works to their advantage because they have this established universe and they can lead into it. I mean, there is a lot of, but there's still so much creative freedom
Yeah.
to actually do this. And they don't have George Lucas hawking over their shoulder every 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So that allows for filmmakers and younger creative people to kind of who have grown up with Star Wars to kind of have their chance to make their own contributions.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and I gotta say, this isn't one of the topics that we were planning on talking about, but like, I've been trying to read the Star Wars books of the new canon, and I read Lords of the Sith, and I gotta say, like, because Lords of the Sith takes place right after Revenge of the Sith, and so it's like right where Anakin / Darth Vader is, right at the beginning of his relationship with Palpatine, and it's not the only book to show you that, holy crap, Vader's a badass dude. Like, holy crap, like he can mow you down, and like
I actually have one. It's called The Rise of Darth Vader, and it's in a similar time frame, and it's really an excellent book. Highly recommend it.
Yeah, so
it shows how evil he could be.
Yeah, and it's like, so going off with these anthology films, I hope that the next batch of Star Wars movie Disney announces, I want there to be a Vader movie. Even if it's, because they've already got the Vader Down comic series, they've got the Star Wars comic series that they're doing. Like, call it Vader Down. Do a Vader Down movie. Like, I haven't read it myself, but something to show just how evil Anakin could be, like in his prime as Darth Vader, like, because that's something we get hinted at, but we don't really get to see. So tying it back into Rogue One that is my number one thing that I want to see, because it's like, look, there's a lot of people that don't think, but it's like, look, if we have Rogue One and Darth Vader isn't in it at all, they're doing something wrong, because this is this is not fan service. This is making sense. If Darth Vader is not in Rogue One with all that's going on, there's something wrong. And I want to see him be badass on screen, because we barely get to see him in Revenge of the Sith. He just yells after Padme. And then, let's be honest, as awesome as Darth Vader is, he really doesn't do much in the original trilogy. It's his presence that means more than anything in the original trilogy. And so, I want to see him in his prime. I do. I want to see him mowing Jedi down. I just do. That's something I gotta see. So...
Well, also, the thing is, by the time A New Hope takes place, he's established a reputation.
Yeah, exactly.
As being ruthless, dangerous, and they weren't sure they could beat him.
Yeah.
That's why they were like, when Luke was just saying, "Oh, I'm going to fight him," they're all like, "No, are you insane?"
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And so what is this reputation? What is his MO? What's the deal about him? So yeah, I completely agree. I would love a Vader movie.
Yeah, and it's like
what he is like before.
And to if any of you were curious about reading the books, but you haven't started reading any of them, like, look, Lords of the Sith was the first one that I read. I'm on my second now, Tarkin. I still haven't finished it. It's not as good as Lords of the Sith in my opinion, but look, to kind of entice you to read it, at the end of Lords of the Sith, and I'm not going to spoil it, but I'm going to tell you, he does something that is 100% unforgivable, and it's horrendous. You're sitting there reading it, and you're going, "Wow, I can't believe he just did that. You can clearly see that whoever Anakin Skywalker was is now dead. He's not Anakin anymore. He's taken on this new persona as Vader, and he's doing his thing per se. So it's a great insight to the beginning of who Vader is, and I think that needs to be seen on screen. It's something, like, look, I completely understand the idea of, like, that Phantom of the Opera kind of idea where don't show behind the mask, that kind of like, or Jaws mentality where you don't really see the shark, you just see little pieces of it, and that's great and that's good. But like, this is one of those times where it's like you could actually show more and it wouldn't do any harm. It would actually do a lot of good for that character, because then for me, having that contrast of this A part where you have this completely broken down human being who then turns into B, this completely evil Vader character, to see having his redemption and being saved. And I think that means so much more than it does now with what we have. But I could be wrong.
Oh,
but that's
definitely. No, the thing is also Obi-Wan mentions how he's changed.
Mm-hmm.
So what's he may have witnessed. So this could actually play part in both the Obi-Wan and Vader movies. What did he witness that he saw the change in? Because Anakin and Obi-Wan were very close.
Yeah.
For many years.
Yeah.
So what's the deal there? That's one thing I like about Clone Wars. It develops a relationship between Obi-Wan and Anakin too. Show them as friends and colleagues.
Yeah, something I did. The last thing I'll say before we start talking about the movies is, before I went and saw Force Awakens, one thing that I did was I watched episode 1 and 2, and then I watched Clone Wars, and then I watched Revenge of the Sith and the other movies. And I'm going to tell you, which part of me wishes I didn't watch the Netflix episodes, because I felt like the last 2 Yoda episodes really took me out of the story, and I loved the ending with Ahsoka and Anakin at the end of the network finale. But all of the other episodes were great. I'm not saying those Yoda episodes were great, because I know there are big defenders of those Yoda episodes. Don't hear me wrong. They're great episodes. I just don't think they needed to take place at the very end as the finale. But it makes that relationship between Anakin and Obi-Wan and everything that's happened, losing his Padawan, and all this other junk that has happened, you see that build up. And it made me so much more care for the movie Anakin, or this character of Anakin, and why he makes the decisions that he makes, It absolutely, I completely disagree with the people out there that say that you don't need to watch Clone Wars, because you do. If you want Star Wars to have a more rich... Oh, excuse me. If you wanted to have a more rich experience, that's definitely something you can do, because it's awesome. Awesome. So then that leads us into the prequels.
I'm gonna need a bigger drink.
Yeah.
I'm gonna need alcohol. I'm gonna need an adult beverage.
All right. So first, let's talk about the Phantom Menace.
Okay. Number 1, very poor misuse of the awesome talents of Liam Neeson.
Yes, I agree. Well.
And Jar Jar, what WTF was that?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing.
George Lucas was high when he wrote.
Well, here's the thing, because like, look, it's gotta take a little bit of work, but hear me out on this. I don't hate the Gungans. Now, there's no universe in the world where, if you ask me what are your favorite species in Star Wars, Gungans are never gonna be in the top 5. However, Gungans themselves don't really bother me. But what the hell was Jar Jar? What? It's like, why couldn't they all have been like Boss Nass or, Captain Topples? Captain Topples was fine. In fact, I kind of preferred him over Jar Jar. Actually, I did prefer him over Jar Jar. So it's like...
No, this is like actually competent moron.
Yeah, so it's like,
As
yeah,
opposed to just regular moron.
yeah, yeah. And especially when you see what happens in the Clone Wars, I mean, Topples is a pretty cool guy, pretty cool dude. Um, so yeah, it's like again, Gungan's cool, Jar Jar not so cool. Um, I um, I think my biggest complaint about the Phantom Menace is if I had to choose one thing, it would be how do I word this? Um, everything. Um, no, well, because here's the thing. Here's my honest thing. I never thought that you needed to start out with Anakin not already in Jedi training. I think it would have been much better if the first thing we see is Anakin already being trained in the Jedi Temple. That's where everything should have started. We didn't need all this backstory of going and finding him, finding the Chosen One, and all this other garbage. It's like you could do a lot of the same plot points that you did in Phantom Menace in a different way with him already being trained as a Jedi. That's what I think would have been. I mean, you could still have him having, separation anxiety from being separated from his mom. You can still go through a lot of the notes and the things you want to get at throughout.
I hated that aspect. I was like, it's so Freudian. It's classic Freudian.
Yeah.
I'm a bit of a student of psychology. I'm like, it's so classic Freudian. And I'm like, this is like, oh, this is throwing Freud in your face.
Yeah.
Lay off.
And don't forget that virgin birth.
Oh, for Christ's sake.
Or the
Don't even
midichlorians.
get me started on that. She was lying.
Yeah. Or
Look at her, she's lying.
yeah.
He has no father. Oh, you mean the one he's just not around anymore?
Yeah.
See, if I was Qui-Gon, I would have been smart ass Qui-Gon. I'd be like, oh, you mean he's not around anymore?
Yeah. But that's really those are my biggest complaints. Jar Jar and like them starting the movie. I guess another complaint would be because see, like I'm actually someone who really fucking enjoyed the pod race. I just think it lasted way too fucking long. The race itself was not the issue. It was, does this need to take up an hour of the movie? Because it does take up like just shy of like an hour of this movie. It's like, I think the race gets over like at 45, 50 minutes into the movie, and it's like, holy crap, like, did it need to be that long?
The only thing that was actually entertaining about that movie was the Tusken Raiders, and of course, if you watch the Riff Tracks version, they refer to them as NASCAR fans.
Yeah.
That's what makes it actually worth a watch.
As we've already talked about, you guys can kind of gauge us, but some things that they did right with the movie: Ewan McGregor, Obi-Wan, great. Not as great in Phantom as he was in the other two, but I'll give it to him. Still good. Liam Neeson, obviously.
Well, more material in the other two. That was part of it.
Yeah. Ray Park was fantastic as Darth Maul. Again, what's the deal with killing two of the most badass characters in Star Wars in one movie? Like, seriously? You could have easily kept Qui-Gon in for at least two. You could have kept Darth Maul in for all three of the prequels and made it work. I mean, he's a badass villain. So that I didn't.
That's why they brought him back in Clone Wars.
Yes, that is why they brought him back.
We're gonna fix that stupid dumbass mistake.
Yep, and that's why they brought him back in Rebels too, because he's fucking awesome.
I'm not that far yet. Don't tell me.
Oh, I'm not gonna tell you what happens, but it's fucking awesome. But yeah, it's like the Duel of the Fates battle was probably one of the best things in cinematic history. Okay, here's another thing that I didn't like. Okay, take the movie as it is, because my answer for what I didn't like was kind of a cop out. So here's the one thing. We had literally 5 battles all going on at once, and only like 2 of them really mattered. Get rid of this whole space battle shit. We didn't need that. That was just pointless. Okay? And this whole thing with Amidala, didn't really need that either. But what we really didn't need is the stupid fucking Gungan battle. Get rid of the Gungans, get rid of the kid in space, then we're good. Focus on the Queen and focus on the battle between Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon and Darth Maul. That's all we needed. It was so convoluted. It was ridiculous. It's like, I didn't even, and it's one of those things because you're like, when you're a kid and watching it, oh, like, yeah, action, fighting, woo, yeah, this is cool. But then as an adult, you're watching it, you're like, okay, why are we here? Why are we doing this? I don't understand anymore. That's, nothing really important happens. Nothing.
This is what we screenwriters call bad writing.
No, I'll tell you what it is.
Too much at once, which you shouldn't do.
Well, see, because look, here's the thing, is, because of what happened in A New Hope when Obi-Wan tells Luke that he fought with his father and he was a great pilot and all this shit, well, they kind of wrote themselves in, well, they didn't write themselves in a hole as far as what happened there, but they kind of wrote themselves in a hole in the sense of, at some point in the prequels, they kind of had to talk about that because, like, so they have Anakin flying because they need him to be a good pilot. And it's like, no, you could have just not had that happen and had everything happen in Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, and everything would have been fine. Because he's still fighting with Anakin.
Because they have him being a pilot in Clones and Sith, more so in Sith.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's like, come on, guys. Really? So, yeah, it's just like, no. Like, look.
No.
I get he's the chosen one.
And also, they didn't use Ray Park's voice. They had another actor voice him, which was weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they, again, misused Ray Park.
Yep. So, like, I forget what I rated it in my movie ratings that I did when I did my reviews, but so I'll just say succinctly that Phantom Menace is in the number 2 spot for me as far as the prequels go. Now let's move on to Attack of the Clones. And this will be the shortest one for me because I don't really have that much to say about it other than it's my least favorite. It's at the bottom for me. And the reason I hate Attack of the Clones is not because of the clones. It's not because of Kamino. It's because of this fucking love story between Anakin and Padme that takes up the whole movie. Why?
As the Riff Tracks guys put it, why is you just strung the most awkward love story of a movie? When the hell did this become an action movie? That's kind of my feeling on that movie.
Yeah. Well, and like, look, and I know there's a lot of people, because, like, look, all in all, surprisingly, I am one of the defenders of the prequels, because I do really enjoy them, because in all of them, there are aspects that I really, really like. But Attack of the Clones has the least things. Let's just be clear. Like, because again, like, look, my favorite character in all of Star Wars is Boba Fett. Until the day that I die, Boba Fett is my dude. I'm just one of those guys that really enjoys them, and everybody else goes, "But he's not hardly in it at all. How can you like him?" It's like, I don't know. It's just it's a thing. Like, I just like Boba Fett. So, like, look, Jango. But look, Jango, his armor, badass. I love the silver and the blue. That was so cool looking. But Boba's a clone?
Again, they kill a badass character off in the first movie he's in.
Yeah. Well, and then they make
Lucas, you just don't understand character development, do you?
No, he doesn't.
Go into a corner and shut up, which they pretty much have now, and makes me happy.
Yep. But then they make Boba a clone, so it's like, okay, so Jango is Boba, but Boba's Jango, so Boba's Jango, Boba, Jango, but father, son, father, same person. What?
I was ready to do a reference to that.
Yeah. Well, it's confusing. Again, convoluted. Like, you could have had Boba just be a different kid. Like, I like the idea of like the clones being Jango and all of that kind of stuff. But when you start screwing with like the original trilogy, like mythos, that's when it gets a little bit weird. Because it's like, look, now here's the thing. I really like the actor that plays Jango. I thought he did great with what he had. You know, I think it's cool that he's done all the stuff for the TV show and done all the voices and everything. That's really cool. But there was no need to have him be Boba. But I guess it kind of works because if they do a Boba Fett movie, now they got somebody they can get. But other than that, that's the only way it really kind of works is from a production standpoint. Which maybe that's why they did it. I don't know. But yeah, that love story, man. Like that whole part where they're like rolling in the fields and having a picnic and that whole back and forth. Like, but I love you.
I just wanted to hang on the upside down and just wait for death.
Like,
during those blood rushing to my head. This is actually more pleasant than watching the movie.
Yeah.
Again, I think he was high when writing.
Yeah. Like, well, hey, you know what the kids love these days? They like a good love story. So we'll do a Star Wars love story. Oh, you really shouldn't have. You really just, no. You just shouldn't have.
There was only one Star Wars love story that mattered, and that was Leia and Han.
Yeah.
Because the actors were good, and the writing actually developed it.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. Like, look. This is not me saying that there didn't need to be a love story in the prequels at all. Because obviously we get Luke and Leia. So there needed to be some kind of romance that led to other things, if you know what I mean. So I get it. We needed it. But not like that. Not like that. Please, anything but that.
We wanted good writing. Is that too much to ask?
Like, see, here's the thing that people don't get, that confuse what fan service is, okay? Having R2-D2 and C-3PO in every single prequel movie, that's fan service. Having Darth Vader in Rogue One, that's not fan service. We didn't need C-3PO and R2-D2 in the prequels at all. But they were there. So, what ifs? And as of now, they're literally the only characters that have been in every single Star Wars movie. Which means that if anyone kills them, there would be a riot. So yeah, it's like the clones. It's like a 4 out of 10 for me. No. Okay.
There could have been an improvement in the movie, although it would go to a R rating.
Oh, I guess I could ask you, what are your thoughts about the Kermit the Frog Yoda fight between Count Dooku?
That was entertaining.
I liked it. Yeah.
I don't want you to retract too much lately.
Yeah. But then that leads us into Revenge of the Sith, which is my favorite prequel because it's done the best. I don't know what the fuck happened between Attack of the Clones and Revenge, but Hayden Christensen got so much better, which still he's not like the best. He's not Oscar worthy, but he could actually carry the movie, and that's all we really want. So I didn't want to kill myself after watching Revenge of the Sith, at least as far as he's concerned. So that was nice.
They didn't make they really poor love story scene, so that kind of helped.
Yeah.
That kind of helped his case.
Yeah.
A bit, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, and look, like because I know this is supposed to be a Star Wars podcast, but I'm gonna kind of take it off. I have seen other movies with Hayden Christensen where it's completely 100% obvious the guy can act. I will defend to the day that I die, Awake. That is a brilliant movie with him in it. It's the one where he has surgery and he's like subconsciously conscious and he's like running around and stuff, and Jessica Alba's in it, and that's a really, really good movie.
She probably helped his acting.
Yeah. And another one is which is actually one that I like even more than that, is The Vanishing on 13th Street. It's him, and I always screw up his last name, but John Leguizamo, or however you say his last name.
Leguizamo,
Thank you. Yeah,
Leguizamo.
that. Yeah, he's in it. It's great. It's a great movie. And I recommend that to everybody because it's like everybody's like, well, he's just a bad actor. No, there's something to be said about having a bad director. And like, look, George
Lucas can't direct actors. I've watched them behind the scenes of the movies and him directing. He can't direct actors worth a hoot. It's terrible. I'm like, my eyes are bleeding.
Oh yeah. Well, and I'm
a director too.
Yeah.
And I one of the things I was taught was you need to learn how to direct actors first before you worry about technical stuff. And he's so wrapped up in the technical aspect. Originally, when he was going to do the prequels, he wanted a director to come in and direct actors.
Yeah.
But they said no.
Yeah. Well, and look.
I bet all those directors are scratching their heads saying,
I will say one of the...
That wasn't such a smart idea.
Yeah. Well, and I will say one of the best things about the Star Wars movies being on like DVD and Blu-ray and all that is the behind-the-scenes stuff, because seeing all that they went through to make the movies, that was really cool. But you can tell in the Attack of the Clones one where he's talking to her about, running up and down through those things when they're in the factory. You can tell how stinking uncomfortable she was with it. When you got an actress or actor that is like, what? It's like, that's a problem that you gotta fix. And it's like, he didn't take that into consideration at all. And it's like, and it comes across on film that just a lot of these things that he was trying to accomplish, his actors just, for lack of a better way to put it, just didn't get it, and it comes across because, like, look, Natalie Portman is another example, even a better example than Hayden, that she's a fantastic actress. V for Vendetta, Black Swan, even when she was a kid and she did The Professional. I mean, she has proven that she can act well. And
the problem was she wasn't put with someone who was good to bring out the better performances in her. Yeah, a lot of people say acting's like tennis. You play against someone better than you, you'll play better.
Right.
That very much is true.
Yeah.
And that was the key. I think that was part of the issue with Star Wars. Both of them were not playing against someone better.
No.
Hayden Christensen wasn't as strong as he could have been.
Yeah.
I haven't seen these other movies that you've mentioned, so I can't speak to his acting ability there. But neither of them did well. And I've seen Natalie Portman and other stuff with really good co-stars, and they bring out excellent performances in her, but she's just not. She just doesn't cut it.
Yeah.
And part of it was because of bad directing, because George Lucas cannot direct actors.
Yeah.
You can see, if you watch some of this stuff, you can see how uncomfortable he is.
Yeah.
And that comes across, and that's one thing you do as a director. That is one thing you do not want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
I mean, you can have directors who are not comfortable with directing actors,
yeah,
but you can get great performances out of them.
Well, it's almost like night and day. It's like you see the behind the stuff with George and how he is with the actors, and then you see the stuff with JJ and how he's been with, Daisy Ridley and John Boyega and all of them on The Force Awakens. It's like it's completely night and day. It's like JJ knows how to direct his actors and how to get a good performance out of them.
He's very playful with them too. That's another major factor.
Yeah.
I think directors should be playful with their actors. There was I was watching a clip from one of the Star Trek films. I think it was the first one.
Yeah.
And he said, "This will feel weird. It'll be awesome." Just say something like that. That'll help your actors get a better performance out of you.
Yeah. Definitely.
He probably said that on Star Wars a few times.
Yeah. Yeah.
So look, feel weird and awkward, but just believe me, it'll be awesome.
Yep.
George never did that. I would guarantee you a lot of money that George never did that.
Yeah. No. And look, I mean, as much as I like my favorite, my actually aside from the last duel with Obi-Wan and Anakin and Revenge, which I don't care what you say, I understand why a lot of people don't like it, but I like the over the top fighting skills because it just goes that much more to show how badass Obi-Wan and Anakin were at their fighting skills and what they were capable of at that time in history. So I love the last battle and Revenge, but my favorite scene as far as acting is the scene between Anakin and Palpatine at the opera. Like that whole scene when he's telling the story about Darth Plagueis, and that whole scenario is so evil and so it's got that dark undertone to it, and it just that is what the whole movie should
Well,
have been like.
part of it was because Hayden Christensen didn't have much to say. He just had to sit there and react, which he can.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's kind of nice. And also, he's playing against someone a lot better than he is.
And on that day
Because
when
McDermott is practiced. He's a Shakespearean Royal Theater
and,
trained.
and the funny thing about Ian McDermott is I don't know if you've ever watched the clip of him at Celebration from 2 or 3 years back, but James Arnold Taylor actually interviewed him and he talked about doing that scene. And on that day of shoot, there was dust and like wood stuff all on the set, and he was like not able to talk. And so that is like when he's like hindered, and it's that good. Whereas Hayden Christensen can even act good, like in Star Wars at least, like on a whatever. Um, but yeah, again, I'm a real big defender of Revenge of the Sith. I really enjoyed it, all the stuff. I didn't
I
like my
enjoy the movie. There are elements of it I don't care for, but I enjoy the movie. I'll pick on Hayden Christensen until the day I die, or he
yeah
dies. Actually, no, it'll be till I die because he died before me, so I'll get to pick on him until I'm done.
yeah. Um, I didn't really care for them
Sam
killing.
Worthington.
Yeah, I didn't really care for them killing Mace Windu, quote unquote, because like, look, they make it out like he's dead, but we never saw that guy drop all the way down to the, ground or actually take his last breath. All we saw is like him getting electrocuted out the window, like, and mind you, remember every fucking shit that happened in Attack of the Clones at the beginning. So if that can happen, then Mace Windu could definitely still be alive.
My
Now,
dad theorized that Finn is Mace Windu's grandson.
yeah,
But anything's possible. He'll just show up. He'll be old and craggly with a lightsaber cane or some such nonsense,
yeah,
yelling at him. What do you think you was doing?
yeah. So that's kind of my thoughts on the prequels and your thoughts. Now let's talk about. I guess we don't really have to go into every. Yeah, I guess we don't really have to go into too much detail in the original trilogy because it's one of those things where it's like, look, if you guys haven't seen the original trilogy and you don't know that we love them, then well, you're just kind of missing the point. But let me be the first to say that my favorite out of the trilogy is Empire Strikes Back, hands down, my favorite. Everything they did with that movie.
Different director and different writers. That's why.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Actually, had people who knew what the hell they were doing.
Yep. Yep. They took a great concept that came forward in a great story with A New Hope, which back then was just Star Wars, and made and added to it and made it better. And especially when you start hearing all the stories that happened, like the fact that nobody knew that the line was no, I am your father. That on set what they said was Obi-Wan killed your father, and then everybody goes to the theater to see the movie expecting Obi-Wan kills your father, and it's like, what? It's like stuff like that is just so cool that they played around with it and like kept it a secret for everybody. So things like that. Just I a lot of the reasons why I like Empire Strikes Back the best is not just from a production or necessarily plot-wise story reasons, but I love the planet Hoth. I love everything. I love the battle and the walkers and them fighting them and that whole thing. And I love Yoda. Frank Oz is, to this day, I think, just an incredible artist, and he has a talent that is a dying art form in my opinion, and he's so good with it. And so just saying that, it was such a great addition to the universe.
Oh, for sure. And then Yoda's now like not exactly the poster child for Star Wars, but he's up there.
Yeah.
He's one of those big things. You just like Star Wars, you think of Yoda.
Yep. Yep. It's
Doesn't
like
really like to make fun of him.
yeah. Yeah. It's like
my brain I have.
yeah. No, but you're right. Like when somebody says Star Wars, the top three characters that come into my head is number one Darth Vader, number two Yoda, number three Luke Skywalker. Those are the first people that pop into my head.
Yeah, it's pretty neat to have that kind of connection.
Yeah. So, what are your thoughts on the original trilogy, and what's your favorite?
I love it. Actually, it's bad considering it's considered the worst movie of the original trilogy. Return of the Jedi is my favorite personally because it kind of brings all these stories into a conclusion of sorts.
Yeah. Well, then you'll hate.
But I kind of like, and it's also a continuation. And even on television, you have part one and part two, and that's the part two of the story. Technically, that was started in Empire, because in Empire, at the end of Empire, this is something they did really, really well. I like Empire better production-wise, but Empire left our heroes in kind of a really bad spot. I mean, there was still hope that they could, get out of it, and they do, and Return of the Jedi is that.
Yeah. Yeah.
The culmination of that hope actually being fulfilled. But they were in a tough spot. I mean, Han Solo's frozen. Luke is pretty badly injured.
Yeah.
The Empire is just wiping everybody out.
Yeah. But see, I like that. I like the idea of leaving our heroes like in a dark spot. And I hope they do something similar with episode 8, because that's what you need. That middle movie has to be the dark film so that you can have that redemption in episode 9, and it'll be up to whoever directs it if it's still going to be Colin Tomarov, or however you say his name, whether it's going to be of course, Rian Johnson is still writing it, so it'll be whatever he writes, but it'll be Colin's interpretation of it, But it's up to them on how redemptive it is, because the third one, you could still do dark. I mean, I think of Return of the King. Return of the King is very well, very much so a redemptive kind of thing, but it also has its like dark moments in it, and it's not really great for everybody,
Absolutely.
So
it's done extremely well. So, I mean, you could go multiple ways with it. Colin can balance that, though. He can balance the light and the dark really well. We saw that with Jurassic World.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we'll see how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking forward to it, personally.
Yeah.
To the next two chapters of those, so we'll see.
Yeah, definitely. And then I guess that leads us into The Force Awakens, which, I mean, we kind of talked about a little bit. I mean, I love the movie. I loved nearly everything about it, I mean, I'm not gonna say it's a perfect movie, but it is a perfect way to bring Star Wars back. I will say that
it's a great way to bring Star Wars back in the sense. A lot of people say it's just a rehash of any of both. I'm like, yeah, sort of, but actually, if you're doing a rehash and do it in that regard, that actually is kind of smart, because you have this new generation of fans.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we have our generation, which had the originals, and then we got to grow up with the prequels for us.
Yeah.
But then there's a generation after us who had the prequels and now are getting this new trilogy.
Yeah.
Which is actually a really neat transition.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think this was a really good story to bring that back about. Much better than Phantom Menace.
Much. Well, and it's like,
we'll see.
Kylo Ren was such a great written villain and character, and that's another big reason why I really am enjoying the one book that I've read so far of the books, because I can't wait till I start getting to post Jedi books, because I haven't read Lost Stars yet or Bloodline since it's come out, but Bloodline deals I think it's like 6 months or so before the events of The Force Awakens, something like that. But it gives you the political atmosphere of everything that's going on. It's a very Leia-centered book, and I really can't wait to read it and see what happens, because you get a lot more about spoilers, Ben, and all that kind of stuff. And so I really want to know what was going on before the events of The Force Awakens, because I think that'll make everything that happens that much more, because Ben is supposed to be like 26, and the events of the book take place, like, a little bit before then. So that kind of gives you an idea. Or what is it? No, what is the timeline? I'm screwing up the timeline. But it takes place quite a while before the movies, but not as long as you think. Like it's good, basically what I'm trying to say is he was already an adult when everything happened. It wasn't like he was a kid or a teenager or anything like that, because they kind of make that out to seem to be the case in the movies, when that's not really it at all. He was already kind of grown up for the most part, and so that's even.
He's still young, but he's alright.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting, and then seeing what's going to happen in episode 8. You hear a lot of the things that are coming out about what's on set and the leaks and everything, which I read about a possible scenario that's going to happen, and I'm super excited about that, if that is the case. I think it's going to be really great, and I think Star Wars is officially back alive, and and even something we haven't touched on yet, but it's like more video games are coming out for Star Wars. I mean, Battlefront 2 has already been announced, and they realized all the mistakes they made with the new one, and they're gonna fix it. They realize that the fans want more of a story, so it's kind of cool. And plus, more of the story-based games are coming out. We got the Han Solo video game coming out and different things like that. So it's just a really good time to be a Star Wars fan right now. It just is.
No, for sure.
Well,
no.
Well, any last words before we shut this thing down?
I think we're good. I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to the next chapters of the Star Wars story. Hopefully they'll do it justice.
Yeah, definitely. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed our Star Wars podcast. Please check out our last episodes that we've done. It's a lot of fun to be able to have someone to talk with, but it's just fun to be able to come on here and talk about movie-related things and entertainment world stuff. So drop us a like, subscribe, and we'll see you guys on the next episode. Peace out.
Later.